Grill at the Lake Worth Golf Club.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
just for public comment, I want you to all know that I am familiar with this establishment. I've known, obviously, the owner of it is the husband of the mayor of Palm Beach, who I do business with, back and forth. All municipalities do business together. I've never done any business with E.R. Bradley's whatsoever. But anyone who knows, I did a restaurant show for 8 years on broadcast television. There's probably going to be any restaurant you can mention that I know in Palm Beach County, so I just want to clear the record up on that. All right, we have any public comments? Mr. Tim, followed by Loretta Sharp.
Peter Tim, North O Street. I certainly hope this guy can make a go of it because it is a nice facility over there. However, I see they have a 10-year contract with another 10 years to upgrade it. And we're charging them $3,000 a month. That to me seems very low. I don't know that much about real estate, but I do know that businesses like them make a lot of money. And I'm quite sure they could pay more. I wonder if there's an escalation clause in that because I didn't see it in the backup. Thank you.
Thank you. Loretta Sharp, followed by Greg Rice.
Well, I used to be on Bradley's birthday list, and I would get a birthday card emailed to me every year to come and have a drink when they were in Palm Beach, but I'm not on it anymore. This lease that I have in my hand was written by Glenn, which is already admitted to it, and it should never be written by a lawyer. Number one, if we sell the utilities, that means I'm going to have to pay for them to have electric. I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen. Number two, I don't think it's up to this board to pick their menu or tell them what they can charge. They're running a business. Let them run their own business. And number three, there's nothing in here that says it will be $3,000 a month for the first year, and then after that, $3,000 a month and part of it proceeds. And I don't understand why it's not in here. I love Bradley's. I think they'd be fabulous at the golf course, but you should never let a lawyer write a lease. Thank you.
Thank you. Greg Rice, followed by Chip Guthrie.
Hi, Greg Rice, 511 Lucerne Avenue. I don't have any trouble with lawyers writing contracts. That's what you guys do. So you can litigate them later on. But I am concerned about the utilities, as was mentioned by Ms. Sharp when I read that. Right now, since we own our electric, and part of the agreement of the lease is that the city will pay for the electric and a few other utilities, but so that wouldn't be a city expense. That expense is borne by all the ratepayers that pay for Lake Worth utilities. But if we do happen to sell the utilities somewhere down the road, we're talking about a 20-year contract here, 10-year lease with a 10-year renewal option. If that ever does happen, then we will have to come out, we the city will have to come out of our pocket to pay those electric costs. And restaurants typically do use quite a bit of electricity for dishwashers and other things, as we all know. I also have a trouble with the fact that I didn't see an escalation clause either. So 10, 15 years down the road, $3,000 a month, there could be one-bedroom apartments in Lake Worth renting for that. So I would like to see some kind of escalation clause put into the lease as far as that is concerned as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Chip Guthrie.
Thank you, Chip Guthrie, South Palmway. I have done business with the owners of E.R. Bradley's and several of their locations. And I want to tell you that I believe this is going to be a real shot in the arm for the golf course and our restaurant over there. It's going to, you've really done a good thing by bringing these people in. Frank Caniglio runs a first-class operation. Everything they've done, they go overboard. Their food is always great. They bring a sense of excitement, which is something to be well needed in that area over there. So I believe that you're going to see a lot more crowds at our golf course, our beautiful facility there on the Intercoastal. And I won't be able to enjoy the whole Intercoastal out on the veranda by myself anymore. But that's a good thing, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner comments? Commissioner McCoy?
Well, I'm glad I did, I must be on the right track, because I had the same concern about the escalator. It seemed kind of odd that the contract was 10 years, potentially 20, and the price didn't change. I have no concern about E.R. Bradley's one way or the other. It sounds like it'd be a good thing. My overall concern is, I think we heard very enthusiastic things from the last folks that were in there, and I talked to the gentleman at one point, and he seemed very, I don't recall his name anymore, but he seemed very energetic and so on, and then I didn't hear anymore, and I'm not sure what happened. Did anybody from the city do any sort of exit interview with the last folk and try to learn what went wrong, what didn't work?
Dustin, you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Dustin McHale, I'm the director of golf at the golf course. I did have numerous conversations with, Todd Weiss was the gentleman who was there. I believe the expectations for what we wanted for the city and also for the golf course were just a little bit higher than what his funds were able to produce. When everything was fine as long as he was surviving off the golfers, as long as the golfers were there, he was producing fine. The restaurant was busy and things like that, but in the summer, when the golf rounds slack off because of everybody going back north and the heat, he didn't have the marketing dollars and things like that in order to fill the restaurant. He was more of a concessionaire for the golf course. When we decided to redo the RFP, we didn't do it as a concessionaire, I did it as a restaurant. I don't want a concession stand at the golf course, I want a restaurant, somebody that's gonna help me attract people to that facility. Not just for golf rounds, but for other things as well, as far as making the facility a place to hang out in the city. And that's what we did when we had the RFP. I hand-delivered over 100 copies of the RFP to different owners of restaurants and things like that. I emailed one to Frank, which is how he got a copy of the RFP. And so the scope of work is a little bit different as far as what we were asking and what we want now. I know the plan. Some of you have talked about being a little concerned about there not being an escalation clause in the lease, and part of that is because of the money that will be spent on the facility itself. Yeah, Bradley's is going to, they've got a lot of plans on how they're improving the business to the tune of probably close to $150,000. And also that can be, it's kind of, if things go according to plan, when the lease is renewed, that will be, the amount will be looked at and talked about again. But we were looking at the improvements that they're doing to the building itself, as far as what the city's getting, and part of that, if you break that $150,000 down to a monthly amount, that's a pretty substantial amount.
Follow?
Yeah. So you're saying that they have a plan to do physical alterations to the building more than just to the kitchen, for instance?
Correct.
Have we seen any plans for that? I think we would, I'd kind of like to see what the plan is for that before we approve it.
They're basically, it's a lot of cosmetic stuff. It's tables, chairs, new things, refacing the bar, painting the entire interior of the building. I know we're waiting on a permit to have outdoor decking around the building. All of that paperwork is ready to go. So that's going to have an outdoor seating area. There's going to be another outdoor bar on the other side of what used to be the banquet room, which will now be the main dining room.
will the banquet room still be available for main dining, or for banquet type things?
It can be, it will, for most of the time, it will be a main dining room, and then the old lagoon will be kind of the bar area. If we have a function where we need the banquet room, then yeah, it can be available, if somebody wants to rent the space.
I know that in the past, we've had, for instance, we've had appreciation dinners for the volunteer boards in that space. Now, maybe we could do it at the casino just as well, I don't know, but
There's a part in the contract, if you look through the backup, there's this part that says that there will be agreed times and places that
That the
the
city
city
can
can
use
utilize
it.
it for city
that,
functions.
that's good. As far as the other aspect of it, that trying to make it more of a restaurant that would survive apart from golfers alone, I don't want to be negative, but it seems to me I heard that same discussion the last time, and I'm concerned, not so much for the city, because I agree, I think it's an amazingly nice location, but it seems to be very difficult to get a business to work there
Well,
and to attract in more than golfers. I don't know why, I mean, it seems like it's very attractive.
Sure, I had the same questions when we did the RFP, which is why I delivered the RFP to the people that I took it to. It wasn't new guys who wanted to start a restaurant, it wasn't small restaurants, it was people who have been there, done that, and have the financial ability to make that happen. And when we settled on Bradley's and when they won the RFP, it was, right, all of their other facilities were highly successful. And so now we're just doing it on a waterfront eatery instead of one of their other locations. We didn't want people who were gonna be month to month, kind of surviving on the income that they're making. We wanted people who had the financial means to survive and to help create business. And so it wasn't delivered, it was out in the public, but I didn't deliver it to people who wouldn't have had that ability.
I defer to my colleague who has more experience in it.
Commissioner Russo?
A couple different things. This is my district. I've heard from the people over and over and over, we want a restaurant that we can eat dinner at, that we can walk to, that we can have a Sunday brunch. We thought we had it in the last person, but again, I met with Dustin and Juan a couple different times with the gentleman that was there and tried to explain to him, you know, what you said and what you're doing are two different things. You're not living up to what the city wants. This is what we need from you. And we tried to have the conversations, and he just, you know, he didn't have the staff, he wasn't willing to, you know, the first time I went in, I said, you know, you need to paint the walls. You know, the walls are dirty. There's no tablecloths, you know, and he wasn't even willing to do that. So, you know, we did work with him, we tried, but, you know, he came in with some expectations that, you know, he just couldn't live up to. So, I think it's a great thing that we have E.R. Bradley's here. It's something that we've heard from the neighborhood, that this is the kind of thing they want. You know, they are investing into a building that we've all said, you know, needs a little TLC. As far as electric, I had some concerns with electric too, but we pay electric on that building, period. Because it shares with the golf course, it shares with, the locker rooms are there. Because I was looking at the business plan and said, you know, can we split it? Are there ways of, well, we really can't split the utilities there because it's all one package. So you know, I had those concerns too, but I think, again, it's my district, I've heard from the people, I've talked to the people, and this is phenomenal, you know, to be able to walk down and have dinner at E.R. Bradley's. I think it's a great thing. Thank you.
Okay, Vice Mayor?
Thank you. First of all, E.R. Bradley's and their group is a world-class.
Can you speak into your?
I'm sorry, I said, first of all, I believe that E.R. Bradley's and their restaurant group is a world-class operation. I think it's gonna bring instant credibility, renewed credibility to what we're trying to do over there. However, I did not read the lease in its entirety, and I've gotta ask, is there a clause in here that the menu has to be approved by us?
Yes.
Who do we think we are? We're not.
That was existent in the beach.
In all that.
In all that there, and I spoke with previous
I mean,
people to take that out then,
You know,
and it hasn't.
My head's gonna explode, okay? This is a business transaction. We have a piece of real estate that they're gonna rent from us, period. I don't care what they sell, well, I do. I mean, you know what I mean. I don't care what is on the menu or what price point they sell it for. Particularly for this organization who's done this for years and years and years. I think they've got it right. Who are we to sit there and second? I do not want anything brought back to this commission for us to approve on their menu or the pricing structure.
Agreed.
I don't want to bring, staff, please do not bring that back. Do not insult these restaurateurs, and do not put us in a position to embarrass ourselves, okay, over that type of a dialogue on this deal. I'm over that. Please, can we stipulate to that tonight? Is that something we could do, Glenn?
Oh, we manage a lot of businesses in this city, we don't need to micromanage.
Are you kidding me?
I believe it says that any changes has to, basically it comes across my desk and then it goes across Juan's and then
I
it goes
think you
across
need to be
my
out of it
executive,
too.
so, yeah.
I think you need to be out of it, the staff needs to be out of it.
Yeah.
If they wanna sell, hot dogs that are,
If they're replacing their tuna fish with salmon cakes, I'm gonna be,
No,
I need to know about that, Mr.
yeah, exactly. The other,
I agree, and I believe, that their staff and our staff kind of have an agreement that it's not really an agreement, but an understanding that they do restaurants, I do golf, and they know what they're doing, and I'm gonna try to be at least as involved in their operation as possible.
This most likely, as you mentioned, is the way it's been done,
And I had
When you
asked to
put
be
it out for
removed the
bid,
last time.
when you put these things out for proposals, there's a lot of folks look at these things. You don't always end up with the ideal candidate. So I don't see an issue taking out, honestly, in the future. I don't know why we would put it in there, but I can understand the reasoning why it was in, probably. Because you end up with a business, and we haven't had good success in this location, either doing it in-house or with the other folks. So if it was probably any other group, you might want to have retained that ability to make sure that they were offering
Something substantial.
something. If somebody was going to take the risk and they weren't the ones being chosen, you might have wanted that in there. Just saying, but I can see it taken out.
And,
You have a follow-up?
what after Commissioner McCoy speaks?
I mean, I think I understand both ends of it, what the city manager just said, and I don't want a colleague here's head to explode, I don't think that's a good idea.
So messy.
Point of order.
And I understand the concept that the folks that you bring in are hopefully professionals and they'll make wise choices. But there is a side that they're doing it, I mean, it's this kind of funny interaction, symbiosis, that they're doing it in a publicly owned space, and we might want to retain a little bit of, hey, can you do this that fits these things? Hopefully, we don't need to do that here, but my biggest concern is, do we have sufficient escape clauses if it doesn't work out for us? 10 years seems like a long time to make a commitment. And I saw some things, and I guess I'm just asking my colleagues who've looked through it, do they feel comfortable that if something goes south, we're not stuck for 10 years?
On paragraph 11, you have the right, after the third year, to terminate the agreement. Either side has the right to terminate the agreement on 90 days' notice. Now, the kicker to that is they need to be compensated for the work that was completed prior to the date of termination. So,
Pay them for the paint?
One of the biggest concerns about the I'm sorry.
Because we're retaining their improvement, they get to keep all their improvements. So they're making their improvements based on a 10-year lease. If we kick them out after 3 years, then they want some compensation.
Yeah,
for
I
improvements.
read that part, and that didn't seem altogether unreasonable if they put a lot in. They should get
That is
something.
the primary out clause of the breach by either side.
Okay, thanks.
Vice Mayor.
And now, to something that we should be concerned about, and not the menu. I'll ask you, Dustin, off the top of your head, where do we stand as far as what they're gonna be paying now versus what the concessionaire paid?
Last year, we made $23,749.94, and that's with a 20% of gross sales. The lesson that I learned in that regard was that the gross sales model was extremely difficult to track, being that the bar is a cash business.
Yeah.
And so I know the cost of goods sold when the city ran the lagoon itself was close to 98%. I mean, roughly the people that were there just before that, I think any of us were here, that were buying things at 89 cents and selling them for $1. We were making more money back then than what we were being paid with the 20% model, and it just didn't. I know it was how many dollars I should get per golf round in food and beverage, and I think it was 73 cents. Just isn't going to cut it, which is about what we were at. So when we wrote the RFP, we didn't want a gross sales model. I wanted a flat fee. I know what I'm gonna get. My utilities for that building are $52,000 a year. 36 of it is gonna be covered. The rest of it comes from the electric that my pumps use to pump well water into my irrigation lakes and the golf shop. And if it goes up a little bit, because their hours are a little later, they're using a little more electricity, then the golf shop's gonna absorb some of that as well, so.
So real quickly, in all the conversations and the negotiations or whatever, the business model, I'm sure was discussed with you all.
Yeah.
Did they give you an indication what the gross sales would be?
I don't have it with me, but I've seen all of the documents. It was included in their proposal.
And would you venture to take a stab at it?
I would be guessing.
Lowball it.
I'd be guessing.
All right, I'm a little concerned about the rent. I think the rent is a little expensive. Okay, at $3,000 a month, I'm not gonna, I think 3,000 is pretty cheap. $100 a day is not a lot of rent to pay.
A lot of that was based on the past 10 years of the building, though. The building has not been successful. And so it was hard for me to ask for a premium dollar for a business that has.
The other thing that we need to remember in this discussion was, when the RP went out, there was actually another bidder that was ahead of Bradley's that we had worked with that dropped off. They were the second choice. So it doesn't have a long history there. It is kind of a tough spot. We don't know. But the real prize is selling golf rounds and attracting people to the golf course. It's not so much about making lots and lots of money on this particular. It's a different business model than the beach. I hear some reticence about that, but I think that's what staff's focus was about, was trying to create that golf experience.
I understand that, and I think this is a win-win situation for everybody, I really do, but I also know that the Bradleys, they're phenomenal marketers.
Right.
Okay, they have instant brand recognition. They're gonna do very, very well.
If I do 10 golf rounds a week, because they're there, at my dollars per round, that's an average right now, I'll make an extra $1,400 a month, just in golf alone.
Well, that's why I
And so-
think, let's look at the big picture here.
And I'm gonna
That's
do
a-
more than 10
and-
rounds.
I wanna get to,
Well, I'm getting to the big picture, and that is the electricity. I don't agree that we can't, separate out. We can't, I don't agree that we can't separately meter
Yeah,
at least the kitchen equipment. I mean, you might get me to buy into a little bit of the dining room part, and, but I think the kitchen equipment could be metered separately.
I agree. I had the same reaction.
And just so it's clear too, it might not be clear to everybody in the public, that in the golf fund, any expenses at that building or related to this doesn't come out of any other fund. The taxpayers aren't paying for it. That gets paid back to the electric utility from the golf fund, so the golf fund has to make those payments. To the profitability of the golf fund, having them pay electric utilities, that's what you're talking about, that's.
Commissioner Zerdy, and then I'm gonna talk, okay? Heard enough of all you guys.
Fair enough.
You had it.
Go ahead.
I maybe have a little different course of my question. Dustin, I walked through there maybe half a year ago with Ms. Sharp one day, and we're looking at the conflict sometimes between golfers and people there dining or having an event there. And we talked about some ways. Is there some consideration for rerouting folks that may be just there for an event or dining versus the golfers routing? We walked through that.
Right now, there is not, I know we were talking about a small hallway or something like that. If an event is in the main dining room, I can reroute golfers to the other side of the building.
So let them walk on the east side and come around that
I-
south entry?
Right, I can flip the 9s, and on that day, I can start on the back 9. So they're coming off of 18, they stop before they get to the main dining room to go inside.
So you make them go in the locker room, then go back outside and
Well, what, they would actually come off of 18, they would stop at the bar and grill first, and then they would reach and then they would reach the locker room area, on their way to
Okay.
on the way to the holes on the north side of the property. There's ways to get around it without construction, and without losing.
you're gonna try that first.
Yeah, if it becomes a problem, then we'll address it.
You know, it's a fairly easy fix.
Sure.
And I wanted to let you know, I thought it was a good idea for you to take the approach that you're taking on this, because I think it's not only that they have the means and they have the draw, that's the golf is drafting behind their popularity and what's going on there, so I think it'll have a good effect all the way around. And I know that you've worked hard to try to bring the type of play and decorum on the course. And I think that, you like that?
That's very nice.
Okay. Up a few notches, and to the chagrin of some other folks there. I know we've all heard it from one way or another over the past year or so, but I wanted to tell you, I think the good idea, and you're creatively thinking about how this could make this venue for our city. It's not too many places you have 18-hole golf course on your coastal around here. And this is a place that really needs to be one of our true amenities in our city that can sustain itself and do more than that. I would look forward to going out there and doing that. So when there is an event, who receives the benefit of the event monies that come in for the event?
It depends on what kind of an event.
A wedding or
If they're doing a wedding that's in the banquet room and Bradley's is doing all of the food and beverage, then that is their revenue, mainly because they're shutting down their dining room for that day. That's gonna be their
so
revenue for the
there's
day.
no benefit from an event for the city as far as that is?
There is none, not at the moment.
Okay. And you said their total investment's around $150,000, that would be sort of
That's
about a ballpark, but it's a freshening up, there's really not any significant
right.
structural
That's
things being done.
right. That's going to be the beginning number. I know there are, if things are successful, I know there's other things that we had talked about doing. Our parking lot's going to need to be redone. Now that could become a problem quickly depending on how busy that they get. Originally we're gonna try to restripe it so instead of the angled parking we have straight parking, which will give us more space.
You beat me to the punch on that, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that regard, that's what I was wondering how that was gonna get handled.